As our plane descended into the golden haze of New Delhi, I looked at my son. I could see the reflection of 1,000 city lights in his curious eyes. The moment we stepped out of the terminal, the air hit us. It was thick with the scent of jasmine, spices, and burning sandalwood. My son's first reaction wasn't wonder. It was total, overwhelming shock. He clutched my hand as we navigated through a sea of rickshaws, colorful buses, and pedestrians. He looked at me and shouted over the honking cars, "Mom, is this a giant parade? Why is everyone moving in different directions at the same time?" I squeezed his hand and told him that what he was seeing was the pulse of a nation that refuses to be quiet. I explained to him that in India, chaos is just another word for life. I told him a story about the white cow we saw resting in the middle of a frantic intersection. He couldn't believe that the drivers didn't get angry. I told him, "In India, honey, we believe in Dharma. Everything has its place, and everyone has their path. Even that cow is on its own spiritual journey." I wanted him to understand that the first lesson of India is patience. To an outsider, it looks like a mess. But to an Indian, it is a dance. It is a vibrant, ancient order that has survived for millennia. I told him that if he could learn to find the silence inside this noise, he would find the soul of humanity. Our journey took us to the city of Agra, the ancient capital of the mighty Mughal Empire. As the morning sun began to pierce through the fog, the Taj Mahal appeared not as a solid building, but as a dream made of white marble. My son stood perfectly still. He finally whispered, "Mom, did a god build this? It's too perfect for a human." I sat with him by the reflecting pool and told him the epic saga of Emperor Shah Jahan. I told him that in the 1600s, India was the richest land on earth. I described the palace rooms filled with peacock feathers, silk from Varanasi, and diamonds from the Golconda mines. He asked me why a king would build such a huge thing just for a grave. I explained that this wasn't just a grave. It was a physical manifestation of a broken heart. I told him about the 20,000 artisans, the stone carvers from Persia, the calligraphers from Arabia, and the masons from Delhi. I asked him to touch the walls and feel the pietra dura, the flowers made of lapis, lazuli, jade, and crystal. I told him that every single petal was carved by hand to show that love is eternal. I explained that, for the Mughals, geometry was a sacred language. The 4 minarets leaned slightly outward, so that in an earthquake, they would fall away from the tomb, not on it. I wanted him to see that India's history is a blend of extreme romance and extreme engineering. This was a time when India owned 25% of the global economy, and the Taj Mahal was its crown jewel. One afternoon, while we were watching a street performer in a dusty square, I decided to challenge my son's mind. I asked him, "What is the most powerful invention in your pocket?" He pulled out his smartphone and showed me the camera. I shook my head. I told him, "The real power is something you can't even see. It's the number 0. He looked at me with a confused smile. "Mom, 0 means nothing. How can nothing be powerful?" I told him the story of the ancient Indian sages, the great mathematicians like Brahmagupta and Aryabhata. I explained that thousands of years ago, while other civilizations were struggling with heavy, complicated numbering systems, Indians looked at the sky and saw the beauty of the void. I told him that in the West, empty was seen as scary or bad, but in India, shunya, the word for 0, means the source of all potential. I explained that they turned a spiritual idea of emptiness into a mathematical miracle. I told him that without this little circle, there would be no physics, no calculus, and certainly no computers. I said, "Honey, every time you send a text or watch a video, you are using the nothing that India invented." I told him that this is India's greatest gift to the world, the realization that from nothing, everything is possible. He looked at the dusty ground and drew a circle with his finger. For the first time, he realized that a simple shape could hold the entire universe together. As we traveled into the rural heart of the country, my son started noticing something he called the Indian superpower. He saw a man using a discarded ceiling fan motor to create a pottery wheel. He saw a schoolboy building a solar lamp out of an old soda bottle. He looked at me and said, "Mom, they don't have many toys, but they have so many ideas." I introduced him to the heart of the Indian spirit, Jugaad. I told him it's a philosophy of innovation born from necessity. I told him about how India's space agency, ISRO, sent a mission to Mars for less money than it cost to make a Hollywood movie. He was absolutely stunned. He asked, "How do they do it for so cheap?" I told him it's because Indians don't wait for perfect conditions. They use their imagination to bridge the gap between "I want" and "I have." I explained that this is why the heads of the world's biggest companies, from Google to Starbucks, are often Indian. They grew up in a culture where you have to think 5 steps ahead just to solve a simple daily problem. I told him that true wealth isn't what's in your bank account, it's the flexibility of your mind. I wanted him to understand that resourcefulness is the greatest survival skill of the 21st century. On our final evening in the north, we sat by the river as the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky into a palette of deep purple and burnt orange. My son was quiet. He told me that when he arrived, he only saw the dust and the noise, but now he saw the patterns in the dust and the music in the noise. He realized that India isn't just a place on a map, it's a way of thinking. I told him that the zero he learned about is like a seed. It looks like nothing, but inside it, there is an infinite tree. I told him that the past and the future are not enemies here. They are dancing together in every street corner. As we packed our bags to head south toward the holy city of Varanasi, I asked him if he was still afraid of the chaos. He smiled and said, "No, Mom. I want to see what else they can make from nothing." I knew then that the magic of India had already begun to change him. We came to learn English and see sights, but we were leaving with a new soul.